Terrified German Shepherd had never felt kindness, then one woman changed her life for Eve. Shadow cowered in the corner of her cramped, filthy cage, her once vibrant coat now matted and dull. The German Shepherd's spirit had been nearly broken by years of neglect and cruelty at the hands of her breeder, a callous man who saw her as nothing more than a commodity. Shadow's world was one of constant fear and survival, never knowing the touch of a kind hand or the comfort of a warm bed. Miles away, Emma Carter, a dedicated animal rescue volunteer, was going about her day, unaware that her path would soon cross with Shadow. Emma had always had a deep love for animals, especially those who had been mistreated or abandoned. She spent countless hours working with local rescue organizations, using her compassion and patience to rehabilitate even the most traumatized dogs. It was during a routine check of online forums that Emma first learned about the neglected breeders operation. The post described a rundown property where dogs were kept in squalid conditions, forced to breed repeatedly without proper care or attention. Emma's heart broke as she read the details, knowing she had to act quickly to save these animals from further suffering. Without hesitation, Emma contacted her fellow rescue volunteers, and together they formulated a plan to confront the breeder and rescue the dogs. They knew it would be a challenging and emotionally charged mission, but they were determined to see it through. As Emma prepared for the confrontation, she steeled herself for whatever lay ahead, knowing that the lives of innocent creatures hung in the balance. The sun had barely risen when Emma and her team arrived at the breeder's property. The sight that greeted them was even worse than they had imagined. Dilapidated cages lined the yard, filled with dogs in various stages of neglect. The air was thick with the stench of urine and feces, and the sound of whimpering and barking was almost deafening. As Emma surveyed the scene, her eyes landed on Shadow, huddled in the back of her cage. The German Shepherd's eyes were filled with fear and distrust, a testament to the deep trauma she had endured. Emma felt an instant connection with the broken animal, and she knew in that moment that she would do whatever it took to save her. The breeder, a gruff and intimidating man, emerged from the house, clearly unhappy with the presence of the rescue team on his property. He regarded them with suspicion and hostility, demanding to know why they were there. Emma stepped forward, her voice calm but firm as she explained their purpose and the legal implications of his actions. The breeder scoffed at her words, insisting that the dogs were his property and that he could do with them as he pleased. Emma, however, was not deterred. She presented him with evidence of the neglect and abuse, making it clear that he would face serious consequences if he did not surrender the animals immediately. As the tension mounted, Emma's team began to carefully remove the dogs from their cages, assessing their condition and providing them with food, water, and basic medical care. Shadow watched from the corner of her cage, her body trembling with fear and uncertainty. She had never known kindness from a human before, and the sudden flurry of activity around her was overwhelming. It was clear to Emma that Shadow would be one of the most challenging cases she had ever encountered. The German Shepherd was so traumatized that she recoiled from even the gentlest touch, her eyes wide with panic and her body tense with fear. Emma knew that earning Shadow's trust would take patience, persistence, and an abundance of love. As the rescue team continued their work, Emma focused her attention on Shadow. She began by simply sitting near the dog's cage, speaking softly and offering small treats. Shadow remained wary, refusing to approach or make eye contact, but Emma was not discouraged. She understood that healing would take time and that she needed to go at Shadow's pace. Over the next few days, Emma visited Shadow regularly, gradually increasing the time she spent with her. She introduced her to other rescue dogs who had been through similar traumas, hoping that their presence would provide comfort and reassurance. Slowly but surely, Shadow began to respond to Emma's gentle approach. She started to accept treats from her hand and even allowed brief moments of physical contact. Encouraged by these small victories, Emma began working with Shadow on basic obedience skills and socialization. The progress was slow, and there were many setbacks along the way, but Emma remained committed to helping Shadow heal. She knew that every small step forward was a triumph and that with enough time and love, Shadow would learn to trust again. As Emma worked with Shadow, she also focused on building a case against the breeder. She documented the conditions at the property and gathered evidence of the neglect and abuse that had taken place there. She worked closely with local law enforcement and animal welfare agencies, determined to ensure that the breeder would be held accountable for his actions. Weeks turned into months as Emma continued her tireless work with Shadow. The German Shepherd had come a long way from the terrified, broken animal she had been when Emma first found her, but there was still much healing left to do. Emma knew that Shadow's journey would be a long and difficult one, but she was prepared to see it through to the end. As Shadow slowly learned to trust again, Emma began to introduce her to new experiences and environments. She took her on short walks around the neighborhood, exposing her to different sights, sounds, and smells. She also arranged for Shadow to meet with a veterinary behaviorist who could provide additional guidance and support. Through it all, Emma remained a constant presence in Shadow's life, offering love, patience, and understanding. She celebrated every small victory and comforted Shadow through every setback. She knew that the bond they were forging was a special one, built on trust, compassion, and the unbreakable power of the human-animal connection. As Shadow continued to make progress, Emma also worked to spread awareness about the importance of animal rescue and the devastating impact of neglect and abuse. She shared Shadow's story with others in the rescue community, hoping to inspire them to take action and make a difference in the lives of animals in need. Despite the challenges and emotional toll of her work, Emma never wavered in her commitment to Shadow and the other animals she had rescued. She knew that her efforts were making a real difference and that every life she saved was a testament to the power of love and compassion. As the legal case against the breeder progressed, Emma felt a sense of hope and determination. She knew that holding him accountable for his actions was an important step in preventing future abuse and neglect. And with Shadow by her side, she felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that together they could overcome anything. Months turned into a year, and Shadow's transformation was nothing short of remarkable. The once fearful dog had blossomed into a confident, loving companion, eager to learn and explore the world around her. Emma marveled at the progress Shadow had made, knowing that it was a testament to the resilience of the animal spirit and the power of unconditional love. As Shadow continued to thrive under Emma's care, the local rescue community rallied behind them. Volunteers offered their time and resources to support Emma's efforts, and donations poured in to help cover the costs of Shadow's ongoing medical care and training. Emma was overwhelmed by the outpouring of support, realizing that Shadow's story had touched the hearts of many. Despite the progress they had made, Emma knew that Shadow's journey was far from over. The trauma she had endured had left deep scars, both physical and emotional, and there would be many more challenges ahead. But Emma was determined to see Shadow through every step of her recovery, no matter how long it took. As Shadow grew more confident, Emma began to take her on longer outings, exposing her to new people and places. She watched with pride as Shadow navigated these new experiences with curiosity and enthusiasm, her tail wagging and her eyes bright with excitement. It was a far cry from the terrified, shut-down dog she had been just a year before. But even as Shadow made strides forward, there were moments of regression and setbacks. Loud noises or sudden movements could still trigger fear and anxiety, causing Shadow to retreat into herself or lash out in self-defense. Emma learned to anticipate these moments and worked tirelessly to create a safe, predictable environment for Shadow to thrive in. Through it all, Emma drew strength from the unwavering support of the rescue community and the unconditional love of Shadow herself. She knew that every challenge they faced was an opportunity for growth and that together, they could overcome anything. As Shadow's second year with Emma began, a new chapter in their journey unfolded. The legal case against the breeder had finally come to a close, with a guilty verdict and a sentence that ensured he would never again harm another animal. For Emma, it was a moment of profound relief and vindication, knowing that justice had been served and that Shadow's suffering had not been in vain. With the case behind them, Emma turned her focus to the future. She knew that Shadow was ready for the next step in her journey, finding her forever home. It was a bittersweet realization for Emma, who had grown to love Shadow deeply over the past 2 years. But she also knew that Shadow deserved a family of her own, one that could give her the stability, love, and attention she needed to thrive. Emma began the process of searching for the perfect adopter, someone who would understand Shadow's unique needs and be willing to provide her with a lifetime of patience, love, and support. She screened potential adopters carefully, looking for those who had experience with trauma survivors and a deep commitment to animal welfare. As the search continued, Emma worked to prepare Shadow for the transition. She focused on building Shadow's confidence and social skills, exposing her to new people and situations in a controlled, positive way. She also worked with Shadow on specific training exercises designed to help her cope with the stresses of change and adjusting to a new environment. Throughout the process, Emma was struck by Shadow's resilience and adaptability. Despite the trauma she had endured, Shadow had an incredible capacity for love and trust, and she approached each new challenge with a wagging tail and an open heart. It was a reminder to Emma of the power of the animal spirit and the importance of never giving up hope. As the search for Shadow's forever home continued, Emma knew that the journey was far from over. But she also knew that with love, patience, and dedication, anything was possible. And she was determined to see Shadow through to the very end, no matter what challenges lay ahead. Just when Emma thought she had found the perfect adopter for Shadow, an unexpected setback occurred. A severe thunderstorm hit the area, with booming thunder and flashes of lightning that sent Shadow into a panic. Despite Emma's best efforts to calm her, Shadow bolted from the house, disappearing into the night. Emma was beside herself with worry, knowing that Shadow was out there somewhere, scared and alone. She immediately mobilized the rescue community, organizing search parties and posting flyers throughout the neighborhood. She spent countless hours combing the streets, calling Shadow's name and praying for her safe return. As the days passed with no sign of Shadow, Emma's fear and desperation grew. She knew that every hour Shadow was missing, the chances of finding her alive diminished. But she refused to give up hope, pushing herself to the brink of exhaustion in her search for her beloved friend. The rescue community rallied around Emma, offering support and resources in the search for Shadow. Volunteers joined the search parties, and local businesses donated food and supplies to keep the efforts going. Emma was touched by the outpouring of support, realizing that Shadow had touched the lives of many in the community. Despite the tireless efforts of Emma and the rescue team, Shadow remained elusive. The storm had left the area flooded and debris-strewn, making the search even more challenging. Emma's heart ached with each passing day, wondering if she would ever see Shadow again. But even in her darkest moments, Emma refused to lose faith. She knew that Shadow was a survivor and that she had overcome far greater challenges in her life. She clung to the hope that somewhere out there, Shadow was fighting to find her way back home. As the search stretched into its second week, Emma's resolve never wavered. She knew that she would never stop looking for Shadow, no matter how long it took. And she knew that the bond they shared was unbreakable, a testament to the power of love and the resilience of the animal spirit. 2 weeks had passed since Shadow's disappearance, and Emma was running on fumes. She had barely slept or eaten, pouring all of her energy into the search for her missing friend. The rescue community had been working around the clock, but with each passing day, the chances of finding Shadow alive grew slimmer. One evening, as Emma sat in her living room, surrounded by maps and flyers, she received a phone call that would change everything. A local farmer had spotted a dog matching Shadow's description on the outskirts of town, near a dense patch of woods. Emma's heart leapt with hope as she grabbed her keys and raced to the location. When she arrived at the scene, Emma was met by a small group of rescuers who had already begun searching the area. They split up into teams, combing the woods and calling Shadow's name. The terrain was treacherous, with thick underbrush and steep ravines, but Emma pushed on, fueled by adrenaline and determination. As the hours passed and the sun began to set, Emma's hope began to fade. She had covered miles of ground, but there was still no sign of Shadow. Just as she was about to give up and head back to the search base, she heard a faint whimper coming from a nearby ravine. Heart-pounding, Emma made her way down the steep embankment, calling Shadow's name softly. As she reached the bottom, she saw a familiar shape huddled beneath a fallen tree. It was Shadow, dirty, exhausted, and terrified, but alive. Emma approached slowly, speaking softly and offering Shadow a treat. At first, Shadow recoiled, her eyes wide with fear. But as Emma persisted, Shadow began to recognize her scent and her voice. Slowly, tentatively, she crept out from beneath the tree, her tail wagging hesitantly. Emma's heart soared as she gathered Shadow in her arms, tears of relief and joy streaming down her face. She knew that the road ahead would be long, and that Shadow would need time to recover from the trauma of her ordeal. But in that moment, all that mattered was that they were together again, bound by a love that could overcome any obstacle. As Emma carried Shadow out of the ravine and back to safety, she knew that their journey was far from over. But she also knew that with love, patience, and dedication, anything was possible. And she was more determined than ever to see Shadow through to her forever home, no matter what challenges lay ahead. In the days following Shadow's rescue, Emma focused all of her attention on helping her recover from the ordeal. Shadow was physically exhausted and emotionally traumatized, and Emma knew that it would take time and patience to help her heal. She started by creating a safe, quiet space for Shadow to rest and recuperate. She set up a cozy bed in a spare room with soft blankets and plenty of toys to keep Shadow comfortable. She also worked with a veterinarian to develop a comprehensive care plan, including regular checkups, nutritious meals, and gentle exercise to help Shadow regain her strength. As Shadow began to recover physically, Emma turned her attention to her emotional healing. She spent hours each day sitting quietly with Shadow, offering gentle touch and soothing words. She also worked with a professional dog trainer to develop a personalized training plan, focusing on building Shadow's confidence and trust. Progress was slow, and there were many setbacks along the way. Shadow was still fearful and easily startled, and there were times when she would retreat into herself, refusing to engage with anyone or anything. But Emma remained patient and persistent, knowing that healing was a process that could not be rushed. As the weeks passed, Shadow began to show signs of improvement. She started to wag her tail more often, and she began to seek out Emma's company, leaning into her touch and resting her head on her lap. She also began to engage with other dogs in the rescue community, playing and socializing in a way that Emma had never seen before. Despite the progress, Emma knew that Shadow still had a long way to go. The trauma she had endured had left deep scars, both physical and emotional, and there would be many more challenges ahead. But Emma was determined to see Shadow through to the end, no matter how long it took. As Shadow continued to heal and grow, Emma began to think about the future. She knew that finding Shadow's forever home would be a challenge, given her unique needs and history. But she also knew that there was someone out there who would love Shadow unconditionally, just as she did. And so, with renewed determination and hope, Emma began the search for Shadow's forever family. She knew that the journey ahead would be long and difficult, but she also knew that with love, patience, and dedication, anything was possible. And she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that Shadow's happiness and well-being were worth every sacrifice. As Emma continued to work with Shadow on her emotional and physical healing, she also began the process of finding her forever home. She knew that it would be a challenge to find the right family for Shadow, given her unique needs and history, but she was determined to find the perfect match. Emma started by reaching out to her network of fellow rescuers and animal advocates, sharing Shadow's story and asking for help in finding potential adopters. She also posted about Shadow on social media, hoping to reach a wider audience and generate interest in her adoption. To Emma's surprise and delight, the response was overwhelming. Dozens of people reached out, expressing interest in adopting Shadow and sharing their own stories of rescuing and rehabilitating traumatized animals. Emma was touched by the outpouring of support and love, realizing once again the power of the animal rescue community. Despite the many potential adopters, Emma knew that finding the right match for Shadow would take time and careful consideration. She screened each applicant thoroughly, conducting interviews and home visits to ensure that they had the experience, patience, and resources necessary to provide Shadow with the care and support she needed. As the weeks passed and the search continued, Emma began to worry that she might never find the perfect home for Shadow. She knew that the longer Shadow stayed in foster care, the harder it would be for her to adjust to a new family and environment. But she also knew that rushing the process could be disastrous, leading to a failed adoption and further trauma for Shadow. Just when Emma was beginning to lose hope, she received an application from a couple named Mark and Sarah. They had experience with German Shepherds and had previously adopted a dog with a history of abuse and neglect. As Emma spoke with them and learned more about their home and lifestyle, she began to feel a glimmer of hope. Mark and Sarah came to meet Shadow, and the connection was immediate. Shadow, who was usually wary of strangers, approached them cautiously at first, but soon began to wag her tail and lean into their gentle touch. Mark and Sarah were patient and understanding, taking things slowly and letting Shadow set the pace. Over the next few weeks, Mark and Sarah visited Shadow regularly, building a bond and establishing trust. They worked closely with Emma and the professional trainer, learning how to communicate with Shadow and provide her with the structure and support she needed. Finally, after months of searching and preparation, the day came for Shadow to go home with Mark and Sarah. Emma's heart was full of joy and sadness as she watched Shadow walk away with her new family, knowing that she had found the perfect home at last. As Shadow settled into her new life, Emma knew that the journey was far from over. There would be challenges and setbacks along the way, as there always were with traumatized animals. But she also knew that with love, patience, and dedication, Shadow would continue to heal and thrive, surrounded by the unconditional love and support of her forever family. Weeks turned into months as Shadow adjusted to her new life with Mark and Sarah. Emma stayed in close contact with the family, offering support and guidance as they navigated the challenges of caring for a traumatized dog. At first, Shadow was hesitant and unsure, struggling to adapt to the new routines and unfamiliar surroundings. She would often retreat to her crate or hide under the bed, seeking the safety and security of a small, enclosed space. But Mark and Sarah were patient and understanding, giving Shadow the time and space she needed to feel comfortable and secure. Slowly but surely, Shadow began to blossom in her new home. She started to explore her surroundings more freely, wagging her tail and seeking out attention from her new family. She also began to engage in play, chasing balls and toys with a joyful abandon that Emma had never seen before. As Shadow's confidence grew, so too did her bond with Mark and Sarah. She started to follow them around the house, leaning into their touch and seeking out their company. She also began to show signs of affection, nuzzling their hands and resting her head on their laps. Despite the progress, there were still moments of fear and anxiety. Loud noises or sudden movements could still trigger a panic response, causing Shadow to cower or lash out. But Mark and Sarah were prepared for these moments, using the techniques they had learned from Emma and the professional trainer to help Shadow feel safe and secure. Through it all, Emma remained a constant presence in Shadow's life, offering support and guidance to Mark and Sarah as they navigated the ups and downs of caring for a traumatized dog. She knew that the journey was far from over and that there would be many more challenges ahead. But she also knew that with love, patience, and dedication, Shadow would continue to heal and thrive. As the one-year anniversary of Shadow's adoption approached, Emma reflected on the incredible journey they had all been on together. She thought about the broken, terrified dog she had first met in that filthy backyard and the confident, loving companion Shadow had become. She knew that it had taken a village to bring Shadow to this point, the countless hours of training, the sleepless nights, the tears of frustration and joy. But she also knew that it had all been worth it, to see Shadow happy and loved at last. And so, as Emma looked to the future, she knew that she would continue to fight for the forgotten and the broken, the dogs like Shadow who had been cast aside and left to suffer. She knew that there would be many more challenges ahead, many more lives to save and hearts to heal. But she also knew that with love, compassion, and unwavering dedication, anything was possible. And she was ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that every dog deserves a chance at a happy ending. As the one-year anniversary of Shadow's adoption approached, Mark and Sarah decided to throw a celebration in her honor. They invited Emma and all of the volunteers and supporters who had been instrumental in Shadow's rescue and rehabilitation, wanting to thank them for their tireless efforts and unwavering support. On the day of the celebration, Shadow was a different dog than the one Emma had first met. She greeted each guest with a wagging tail and a joyful bark, her eyes bright with happiness and love. She played with the other dogs and attendants, chasing balls and wrestling with abandon, her fears and anxieties a distant memory. As Emma watched Shadow play and interact with her new family and friends, she felt a deep sense of pride and accomplishment. She knew that the journey had been long and difficult, filled with challenges and setbacks at every turn. But she also knew that it had all been worth it, to see Shadow happy and thriving at last. Throughout the day, guests shared stories and memories of Shadow's journey, from the harrowing rescue to the months of rehabilitation and training. They talked about the incredible resilience and courage Shadow had shown, and the unwavering love and dedication of those who had fought so hard to save her. For Emma, the celebration was a reminder of the incredible power of the animal rescue community. She knew that without the support and efforts of so many people, Shadow's story might have had a very different ending. But together, they had made the impossible possible, and given a broken and forgotten dog a second chance at life. As the celebration wound down and the guests began to depart, Emma took a moment to reflect on the journey that had brought them all to this point. She thought about the countless dogs like Shadow who were still out there, waiting for someone to see their potential and give them a chance. She knew that the fight was far from over, and that there would be many more battles ahead. But she also knew that with the love and support of the rescue community, anything was possible. And so, as she hugged Shadow goodbye and watched her trot off with Mark and Sarah, Emma felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination. She knew that she would never stop fighting for the forgotten and the broken, and that she would always be there to lend a helping hand, no matter how long or difficult the journey might be. For Shadow, the celebration was a testament to the incredible love and resilience of the animal spirit. She had come so far from the broken, terrified creature she had once been, and had emerged stronger, braver, and more loving than ever before. She knew that she would never forget the kindness and compassion of those who had saved her, and that she would spend the rest of her days living a life full of joy, adventure, and unconditional love. And as she looked around at the smiling faces of her family and friends, Shadow knew that she was finally home, and that she would never be alone again. In the years that followed, Shadow's story became a beacon of hope for the animal rescue community. Her incredible transformation from a broken, forgotten dog to a beloved family member inspired countless others to open their hearts and homes to animals in need. Emma continued her work with the rescue organization, taking on even more challenging cases and fighting tirelessly for the rights and well-being of every animal that crossed her path. She knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult, but she also knew that with the love and support of the rescue community, anything was possible. As Shadow grew older, she faced new challenges and health issues, but she never lost her zest for life or her unwavering love for her family. Mark and Sarah were there for her every step of the way, providing her with the best possible care and attention, and making sure that she knew just how loved and cherished she was. Despite the ups and downs, Shadow's life was filled with joy, adventure, and unconditional love. She went on hikes and beach trips with her family, played with her canine friends at the dog park, and snuggled up on the couch for movie nights and lazy Sundays. And through it all, Shadow never forgot the kindness and compassion of those who had saved her. She was a living testament to the power of second chances and the incredible resilience and love of the animal spirit. As the years passed and Shadow's muzzle began to gray, Emma knew that her time with her beloved friend was growing short. But she also knew that Shadow's legacy would live on, inspiring countless others to open their hearts and homes to animals in need. And so, when the time finally came to say goodbye, Emma was there by Shadow's side, holding her paw and whispering words of love and gratitude. She knew that Shadow's journey had been a long and difficult one, filled with challenges and setbacks at every turn. But she also knew that it had been a journey worth taking, and that Shadow's life had made a difference in the world. As Shadow took her final breaths, surrounded by the love and comfort of her family, Emma knew that her spirit would live on forever. She knew that Shadow's story would continue to inspire and uplift, reminding us all of the incredible power of love, compassion, and second chances. And so, as Emma said her final goodbyes to her beloved friend, she knew that Shadow's legacy would endure, a shining example of the beauty and resilience of the animal spirit. And she knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she would always carry Shadow's memory in her heart, a constant reminder of the incredible difference one act of kindness can make in the world. Years after Shadow's passing, Emma found herself reflecting on the incredible journey they had shared together. She thought about the broken, forgotten dog she had first met in that filthy backyard, and the incredible transformation Shadow had undergone thanks to the love and dedication of so many people. Emma knew that Shadow's story was a testament to the power of second chances and the incredible resilience and love of the animal spirit. She knew that without the tireless efforts of the rescue community, Shadow's life might have had a very different ending. But she also knew that Shadow's legacy lived on, inspiring countless others to open their hearts and homes to animals in need. She saw it in the faces of the dogs she rescued, in the tears of joy and gratitude from their new families, and in the unwavering commitment of her fellow rescuers. And so, as Emma continued her work with the rescue organization, she did so with a renewed sense of purpose and determination. She knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult, and that there would be many more challenges and setbacks along the way. But she also knew that with the love and support of the rescue community, anything was possible. She knew that every dog deserves a chance at a happy ending, no matter how broken or forgotten they might seem. And she knew that Shadow's spirit would always be with her, guiding her steps and reminding her of the incredible difference one act of kindness can make in the world. As Emma looked to the future, she knew that there would be many more animals in need, many more lives to save and hearts to heal. But she also knew that she would never stop fighting for them, no matter how long or difficult the journey might be. For in the end, Emma knew that the greatest gift we can give is the gift of love, compassion, and second chances. And she knew that as long as there were animals in need, she would be there to answer the call, forever grateful for the incredible journey she had shared with a once-forgotten dog named Shadow.